Have you ever found yourself lying awake with worry, unable to sleep, or perhaps felt a surge of panic in crowded places? Many people today are grappling with what's been called an anxiety epidemic, impacting their daily lives. But don't you worry, because just by watching this video, you can learn to navigate anxiety and look forward to a future with less stress. A mission to rewire our survival brains. Remember how during the early days of COVID, our sole mission was to load up our cart with toilet paper? But what if someone asked you what was going on in your head as you dashed through the aisles, hoarding yeast, rice, and enough baked beans to last a lifetime? Not a lot, right? Because when anxiety kicks in, our smart brains take a break. Instead, our ancient survival brains take charge, designed to shield us from threats. And back then, the threat was COVID-19. In simpler words, your brain is like a two-in-one deal. There's the old part, which dates back to the time when our ancestors had to dodge saber-toothed tigers. Then came the upgrade about 1 million years ago, the prefrontal cortex. The part that handles planning, reasoning, and predicting, helping us make sense of the world. Anxiety pops up when our prefrontal cortex doesn't have the full scoop to predict what's going down. It doesn't actually help us like fear does with a charging tiger. Nope, it just keeps us awake, staring at the ceiling and playing out wild scenarios in our heads. Suffering more in your imagination. Forget the cliche images of people in dire situations. Addiction isn't just about that. It's part of our everyday lives, like the extra pair of shoes you snagged even when your wallet gave you side-eye. Worry is also an addiction. Yep, that nagging feeling that won't quit. And when anxiety knocks on your door, worry steps in like a temporary escape. You start imagining worst-case scenarios or brainstorming ways to kick anxiety to the curb. It feels like problem-solving, but most of the time, you're just on a worry treadmill. It distracts you from the original comfort, offering a momentary break. And before you even know it, it turns into a habit we can't shake off, like worrying on autopilot. The snag? Worrying doesn't actually solve anything. It just cranks up your anxiety levels. Good news, though. In the next part, we'll dive into breaking free from this merry-go-round of anxious thoughts. Time to get to the bottom of this. Meet John. His nightly ritual of downing shots like it's a party for one might seem like a drinking issue, but it's actually his anxiety that's pulling the strings. Workload stress had him seeking solace in the temporary escape of whiskey, creating a chaotic cycle. Now John, being the savvy self-investigator he is, decided to map out his habit loops. Understanding what triggers his anxiety, how he reacts, and the aftermath of these behaviors was his light bulb moment. So the first step in the grand journey of taming anxiety? Map out those habit loops. What sets off your internal alarms? How do you react? Maybe anger, perhaps a deep dive into streaming services? And most crucially, what's the aftermath of these habits? Your brain's autopilot. Imagine waking up every day and it's like Groundhog Day. You have to relearn basic tasks like eating breakfast or using your phone. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Well, our brains are smart, turning routines into autopilot mode about half the time, thanks to the default mode network. Now, while autopilot is nifty for daily chores, it comes with a downside. We lose track of our thoughts and habits. Cue destructive habit loops doing their mischief because, guess what? We're blissfully unaware. So the brain's posterior cingulate cortex, or you can just call it PCC. It's the brain hub that lights up during daydreaming, worrying, and hosting obsessive thoughts. Addiction cravings join the party as well, and together they're crucial contributors to anxiety and depression. But fear not. It's not about turning into Zen masters, but becoming Sherlock Holmes for our thoughts. In the grand scheme, mindfulness is your trusty tool to break free from those pesky habit loops and tame your anxiety. Ready to dive into the mind gym? Unmasking the illusion of enjoyment. A plate of boiled broccoli versus a tempting slice of cream cake. Your brain's screaming for the cake, right? Why? Well, obviously, because it's going to give your brain a mega dopamine hit and a dash of emotional joy. We've linked cake to fun, parties, and celebrations since forever, etched into our brains like a playlist. Now, choosing broccoli over cake is like convincing your cat to take a bath. Challenging. Our brains are stuck in a time warp. They still party like it's a kid's birthday bash when we scarf down cake. Reality check. Stress eating that cake won't turn you into a joyful munchkin. It's a brief dopamine party, leaving you grumpy and bloated later. That's where mindfulness comes in. When we hit autopilot, our brains replay these outdated hits. So next time you catch yourself in a habit loop, smoking, procrastinating, ask, what's the real deal here? Taste that cigarette, feel the moment. You might realize the reward is a bit of a charade. This isn't brain gymnastics, it's seeing the real picture. When the brain figures out the party isn't as banging as it thought, breaking habits becomes a breeze. Think growth, not defeat. Embarking on the journey of unraveling your habit loops might feel like dissecting a frog. Not the coziest task. For years, you've dodged feelings and played hide-and-seek with your habits. But these loops are like long-term roommates. You can't kick them out overnight. First off, stop critiquing yourself harshly by saying things like, I'm a failure, or this won't work. Try to throw in some humor. There goes my quirky brain, again. Most importantly, show yourself some compassion. Even if you fail, embrace it. And see mistakes as stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. If you find yourself binging after a health streak, great. Your brain got a memo on how good healthy eating felt. Lastly, if you feel restless and frustrated, you'll know it's your inner cheerleader screaming for change. The childlike magic. Picture the world through the eyes of a kid, a never-ending quest for answers. Why do cats have long tails? Why can't they sip wine like grown-ups? As grown-ups, our curiosity often shrinks to info-filling mode, like Googling traffic updates. But we don't even realize that we're actually missing out. It's the art of loving learning for its own sake, exploring the world without a checklist. Unleashing curiosity activates the brain's dopamine pathways, creating a memory fiesta in the hippocampus. A study dance at the University of California, Davis proved it. Cultivating this curiosity is a secret weapon against anxious habits. Next time panic kicks in, channel your inner detective with a loud, Instantly, you're curious. You start asking, what's happening here? Sure, you might feel a bit goofy, but that's the magic. Curiosity and playfulness go hand in hand. Start by observing your feelings like a detective tracking clues, because it's definitely going to be a rewarding adventure your brain can't resist. From panic to peace. Alcoholics apply a one-day-at-a-time mantra for sobriety. Similarly, anxiety recovery demands a today-centric mindset. Instead of stressing over a future free from anxious loops, focus on the now. Can I practice mindfulness and curiosity today? When tension looms, remind yourself of the tools you've honed. Trust your resilience and face difficult feelings head-on. Enter the RAIN system. Recognize, accept, investigate, and note. Breathe through anxious phases. Deep, slow breaths signal safety to your brain, promoting relaxation. Some days may feel stagnant, but recognize the survival mechanism of despair. Break the cycle with curiosity, kindness, or a good laugh. No need to plan forever. Just embrace the present. In this moment, can you spark curiosity about your feelings? Bravo! Your journey to anxiety sobriety has begun.